Hey guys. Okay, so I'm going to show you the cheap, easy way to make um, frames for these type of canvases, which would be the level one. It possibly could work for level two. I haven't tried yet. But for the level one cheaper canvases, this is frames to kind of amp up the level one frames. So what I was explaining to you guys was you need a miter box, and this came from Home Depot. This actually comes with a saw, and I believe this runs about 15 bucks. I'm not sure of all the sizes they have, but I know that this particular one was about 15 bucks. The next thing you will need from Home Depot, or any hardware store, it doesn't matter, are these pieces of wood. Now these come, they're extremely long. They would be in the back section where the wood is. The price tag, it said 168, but for some reason I don't know if the tags were wrong, but these actually run up to about $1.18. Let me see if I can. Right, so this is about, width wise, this is about a half of an inch. What I do is I actually get these cut at Home Depot. They will cut these to size. It has to be over an inch though. Anything over, excuse me, 12 inches. Anything under 12 inches, they won't cut it. It has to be 12 inches and over. If you prefer more accuracy, I suggest you actually just get them cut into pieces, certain lengths, and then come home with a miter box and do it yourself, which is actually what I wind up doing. I have, for the most part, got these cut to precise sizes. What happened was though, I was going by the measurement of my actual canvas, and I wasn't considering the width of the actual wood. So all of that has to be calculated when you're actually making these frames. Um, so you have your wood and you cut it. You will need some corner brackets. I don't know if you can see these. These are the small ones that I use for my small pictures. For the bigger pictures, I actually use bigger brackets. They're not too much bigger than these, but they're actually longer. They work better with the bigger canvases. I didn't use the screws that come with the 4-pack canvas, I believe it is, the 4-pack corner braces. If you buy a bag of these from Lowe's or Home Depot, these usually come in a 4-piece with screws. The problem with those screws are those screws tend to be a little too long for the width of these pieces of wood. So I actually wind up getting the wood screws, and I believe this is, let me see, I don't even know how to read these correctly. It's the 6 by 5/8 inch. They're tiny, but they're actually big enough. If you can see that, let me show you. So they're tiny, but they're big enough to actually put, to screw into these, and it holds it perfectly. I also bought some panel board nails. I do these for extra security on the frames. You really can't even see these because what I actually wind up doing is buying wood putty, and let me show you what that looks like. And I use this to kind of perfect the frame, if you will. I mean, it's a cheap frame, but you can actually make these frames look nice. Make sure you have your measuring tape and your hammer, and you're good to go. Now, with these frames, if you're not handy dandy with measurements, and I'm assuming a lot of these are females that are trying to learn how to build these canvases, what you can do, just a second, because I believe I actually got these cut to size. No, not quite. Okay, so what you do is you measure lengthwise. You use your pencil to mark where your canvas stops. This particular frame, I can't really see. Okay, so this particular canvas is a 10 by 10. So you're going to measure the top part, and you're going to measure your side part. Now, depending on where exactly you want your canvas to fit, for instance, if you want your top part to go straight across, or if you want your side parts to go straight across. What I normally do is my sides usually go inside of the top and bottom, and I screw them in like that. So once you actually have your wood cut, and you have it exactly where you want it marked, because you need these to not be too long, especially for this size miter box. You take your wood, you put it up against exactly where you want to cut it at. These miter boxes have lines in them that you can actually cut diagonally or straight across. Once you have the line aligned where you want to cut it at, these actually get put in the miter box, and you turn them, and it actually tightens the wood in the miter box. Somebody had asked me, how do I hold the wood in place? This is actually how the wood gets held in place. Once you actually have your wood in place, the saw fits inside the miter box. And if you can get a good grip, that simple. Once you have all your pieces of wood cut the way you want them cut, I usually take my sander and I sand these down smooth, not removing too much of the actual height of the piece of wood, because you still want your measurements to be kind of exact. But when you cut, you notice you'll have these little straight pieces of wood. Okay, so you sand those down. Once you have all 4 of your pieces of wood cut. You have it sectioned together. You take your bracket and you actually mark, once you have these pieces of wood cut, you actually mark on your bracket. So let me show you. On your bracket, once you figure out how you want your frame to lay, whether you want the top and bottom to be on the inside or the sides to be on the inside, you take your bracket and you mark it with your pencil where your screw's gonna go. Now, this is what people wanted to understand for my female acrylic painters. You want this, and let me get closer so I can show you. You want your corner bracket, let me see, that's too bright. Okay, so if you can see this, you want your corner bracket to sit not all the way to the edge, but far enough that when you actually are done building this, your canvas will actually sit inside of the 4 pieces of wood. And your bracket is actually what holds that canvas in place. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So once you have that assembly, and I actually have one built here. Forgot what size this one's for. I believe this one's for my 12 by 24, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, let me show you. So this is one that I've completed. I have to sand my my wood putty down because I realized I had done it on the wrong side. But yes, your bracket, if you can see, is sitting here. When you're completely done putting this together and assembling it, sanding it down, you're going to take your picture . Let me make sure. Actually, you know what? I don't even think this is not the right canvas. I think that just a second. Okay, I'm back. Okay, so that wasn't the right canvas. This was the right canvas. Okay, so once you're done assembling it, what happens is you take this canvas and you push it canvas actually pushes inside of the frame. So what's holding this canvas in place actually is the brackets. And the brackets is what actually keeps the canvas still. And actually this was made to fit snug. That's how I made this particular frame. And this is why it's important, if you want to learn how to make these on your own, without relying and hoping on a frame to fit, and then you get it and it doesn't fit. If it does fit, you're actually paying a pretty penny for your canvas. This is why when you have a particular canvas, because let's be honest, they're not all the same size. They might say they're the same size. Sometimes you might have some type of deformity, something like that. It's actually good to measure these canvases for yourself. Measure them, cut your wood to fit that particular canvas, and then do the steps that I showed you. You know, cut your wood with your miter box. You're gonna screw your brackets in. The nails I actually use in the top part, and like I said, you really can't even, you really can't even see these nails. I'm not even sure if you can see this, but this is why it's important to actually cut these yourself if you want a cheap, effective way to make frames for your canvases. I hope this helped. This was basically making frames 101 for dummies for females that don't really feel like waiting on the husbands to make these frames for them. It's really easy. It really is. The hardest part is cutting the wood. Of course, I was on my table. Usually I'm more secure than that, but for video purposes, you know, I had to raise the table to show you guys how to do it. But this is how I make these frames. I sand them down, make sure they're smooth. I paint them, and they actually turn out quite lovely. I hope this helped. Have a blessed day.